Welcome back to my channel, guys. And in this video, I'm with my best friend, Chisanga. Again, guys, bringing you answering some more Christian questions, which is quite nice. In this video, we'll be answering the question, do we need to fast in this day and age as Christians? So we're going to dive into it, see what the Bible says, and let's go.
So I think that's such a saucy question. The answer is obviously yes. The answer is yes, and the reason why is because there's something that fasting does that edifies your spirit, but that also allows you to I don't know the actual, you know what I mean, terms for this, but it allows you to get closer to God because you're depending fully on God in that moment, in those moments. So you're saying, God, I don't need I don't need food, I don't need water or whatever, and I just want you. And there's something so beautiful about a sacrifice of just wanting God, and which is why obviously in fasting, like, it has to be done correctly, and we'll talk about correct fasting very soon. But what do you think about fasting?
I agree. Like, fasting is very, very important. And I would say when you're fasting, obviously your flesh, you're depending on food every day. Like Sanga said, you're eating, so you're feeding your physical body. And in the same way, sometimes we focus more on feeding our physical body than feeding our spiritual bodies. So sometimes I'll remember to eat, but not to pray. I have to eat at least 6 times a day. And when you actually take the time away to fast, sorry, with my snacks,
So fat.
with snacks, sometimes, you know, I have my breakfast, and I have my snack, and I have my lunch, and then my snack, and then I have my dinner, then I have my snack. You know what I'm saying? So
She's rich, guys. She has the money for that. Like, I'm good if I just have breakfast and dinner. Like,
you know, but I'm always like snacking, and I always remember to do that. And in that moment of sacrificing, I'm actually starving my flesh to feed my spirit. So in the times that I would actually eat, I would use that time to actually spend time with God and actually feed my spirit. So in that way, you actually edifying your spirit a lot more and actually sacrificing what you would feel like you need to show God that you need Him more than you need food.
100%. 100%. And if you remember, like, Jesus fasted, like when he received the Holy Spirit, he automatically went into the 40 days and 40 nights without food. And in those, that's when he was tempted the most. But I also believe it was when he was purified the most.
That's true.
Because that's the time when the devil offered him everything that he could potentially need or want, and yet his focus stayed on God. His focus stayed on, no, I will not bow down to anyone. No, I will not turn that food to bread and water. I will not, don't make me test my God type of thing, because that's really important. And also, if you think about it, when Jesus himself then started in his ministry, the disciples, they were casting out that demon, and they were trying to cast out that demon, and the demon wasn't leaving, and then Jesus just literally went, get out. And he was like, oh, like, Rabbi, how come we prayed for that same demon, nothing happened? And Jesus literally says that, you know, some demons only come out by fasting and praying. So there is a need to fast and to pray. It's good praying, but fasting adds that extra spiritual oomph, if you call it, to certain situations that are spiritual.
Yeah, and in this world, guys, we live in such a spiritual world, and we're no longer fighting flesh and blood, we're fighting spirits. And there's some spirits that will not go away, will not leave you, will not literally take whatever strongholds they have on you without praying and fasting.
100%.
So to be able to drive out a lot of these spirits that a lot of people struggle with, I think it's praying and fasting might be the biggest solution and the best way to actually drive these things out.
100%. Also, how would you fast then? What's like the correct way to fast? How do you fast?
I feel like fasting is what is a sacrifice to you, because I feel like sometimes some people tell you how to fast, but I believe that it's what is considered a sacrifice to you. So for me, whenever I do fast, I prefer to fast for 12 hours because that would be a sacrifice to me. Some people can only do 4 to 3 hours, which is a sacrifice to them. You know, it depends on your relationship with God that you'd be able to fast. So I would normally preferably do a 6 to 6 fast because that's just something I've always done with God. What about you?
So I always go from 12 hours, give or take. So I would start at midnight and I would break it at 5 or 4. And that's just because my bulk of my day is done between that time, and then by 5, 6 time, that's kind of the time that I'll be like, okay, God, let me start cooking dinner for the family, and it would also be time for me to have enough time to spend time alone, reading the Bible before breaking the fast, before everyone gets home. So that's just what works for me. But I don't only fast food, so I would fast social media, because I feel like social media is probably something for me anyway that I'm on a lot. So when I'm okay, God, I'm gonna totally fast social media, that to me is a sacrifice, because I'm I'm not gonna be scrolling on TikTok or scrolling on Instagram, and I'm just gonna, instead of doing that, I'm gonna read the Bible. I'm gonna give this time to you. But my partner, sometimes he'll fast his phone, so he won't be on his phone for the entire 24 hours, and instead he will pick up a book, or he will go and talk, or he'll go and evangelize on the street. And it's almost like we have a lot of technology and a lot of things that we've been given that can easily take away our attention from God. And I think it's putting ourselves in situations where it's no, God, you're first.
That's true. That's true. Some people would also do what they call a fast of Daniel. So some people would fast off meat, for example. I mean, that's a harder fast for me to do than eating food. Like that was the hardest fast. No meat for, I think, 21 days is what they would do it for. And that's a sacrifice, guys. That is a big sacrifice. But taking yourself away from having things like meat and just doing a Daniel fast is also it's good not only for you spiritually but physically, because you eat a lot healthier. You know, I would say it's healthier in a way. Well, it's obviously going back to that story where Daniel was in the lion's den, and that the other contenders were getting meat and fruits and bread and all the things that they could to kind of get them strong and healthy. And Daniel was I don't need that. I have my God. Just give me vegetables and see that I will be as strong or even stronger than them. So that's kind of where the fast came from. But because of the same fast, we've almost used the vegetables to refer to the word of God. I don't need, because a lot of these 21 days fasts are done at the start of the year. Every church kind of starts a big fast, and it's we're going to do this 21-day fast, we're going to protect the church, we're going to go into a season of whatever season you guys, you know what I mean. And that's really important, because it's a starting for strength for the church, but also strength for the pastor and the people in the church. So it is it's really good, and it's a good time, because sometimes people are when do I fast? You know what I mean? So it depends. So I always fast at the start of the year. The first 21 days of every year I would fast, because I give the first 21 days of the year to God. And whenever you're going through a season where you feel like the devil is after your life, or there's things that are happening in your life, because sometimes things will happen in your life, they're why is this happening? I don't understand. You might feel things just keep going wrong in your life, or things just keep happening that you can't explain. It may not be physical, it may be spiritual.
100%.
And that would be an opportunity for you to fast and 100%. Actually fight whatever demon, whatever principalities in your life in that time. And honestly, it is amazing the things that God can reveal to you through fasting and praying, because when you separate yourself for God, He will show you things that you're just I would have never seen that. Because sometimes as you're going through life, your spiritual eyes could be closed, and until you take yourself away from this physical and you focus on the spiritual, you start to see things through your spiritual eyes. And that's one of the things that fasting also gives you
100%.
as well.
And also, like, we have to think about the fruit of the spirit, self-control, and I think it's something that especially this generation lacks a lot. And when you fast, like, honestly, hats off to like vegans and vegetarians and pescatarians and all-utarians, because like that, you get into a habit of self-control by denying yourself meat. So I think maybe self-control might be a little bit easier for you guys, because if someone put meat in front of you, you have no desire for it. Whereas like fasting now, especially for people that aren't as well, fasting also kind of helps with that aspect of self-control, being like, you know what, I've said I'm not going to eat food, I said I'm not going to go on my phone, I've said I'm not going to go on social media, so therefore I'm not going to do it. And being a person of your word, being, you know, someone where your words match your actions, that's also very, very important. It literally says let your yes be yes and your no's be no's. So this, practicing the spirit of self-control is also really important, but it's also really helpful, and practice a lot more when you are fasting. So after the fast, what do you do? Like, what's actually different? Like,
I think the first thing after a fast that is different for me is my perspective.
okay,
In the way that I see life, in the way that I go about things, because I think people feel like, oh my gosh, now the fast is over, I can go back to reality. But my perspective firstly is different. My routines are usually different because I tend to find myself praying a lot more.
nice.
So let's say before I did my fast this year, one of the things that God had shown me is that yeah, like that I spend a lot more time feeding my flesh than my spirit, is one of the things that I realized, because I was so focused on everything around me that I forgot about God a lot of the time. So sometimes like I would come home from work and I'll be like, oh, I'm too tired to pray, I'll just pray tomorrow. Or, oh my gosh, it's morning time now, I need to start my clinic, I can't pray, you know what I mean? So it's small things like that, and before you know it, you would have gone like 2 days without praying. So it was in that time that God actually like taught me to actually find a routine of spending time with him, where I would wake up, I don't know if I mentioned this in my other video, where I'd actually start my day with worship. Like no matter what I do, the first thing I do is worship God. When I'm in the shower, I take that extra time. So things change every time I fast. Last year I realized that there was quite a lot of people in my life as well that didn't need to be in my life. You know, when you have people in your life that like they're there because there was a season of your life when God had placed them in your path, and that season has actually come out.
It's done.
You know what I mean? So in that time, like God was actually showing me like, okay, the season of this person or these people in your lives is actually not serving you anymore, and it was time for me to actually let go of things. So things change every time I fast, and every time I come out of a fast, like God reveals something or the other to me.
Nice.
What about you?
I would say definitely routine. I would say definitely how often I fast usually changes after I fast, because it's like, oh, I can do it. I think there's always like a fear of thinking I'm not going to be able to go that long without food, or I'm not going to be able to go that long without water or Instagram or whatever, but like once you do it, it's like, oh God, I can do that again, I can do it again. But also like I think every single time I do fast and then read more about fasting, like I find out something new every time. So obviously there's the thing that, you know, when you do fast, you shouldn't be like the Pharisees. You shouldn't go out and like let everybody know that you're fasting, look miserable, look like you're dying, going grey because you haven't had food, so that people can ask and be like, why do you look like this? Oh, I'm fasting for the Lord. Like that is not really what it's meant to be about. It's like a lot of things that you do in secret are rewarded in secret as well, but can also be rewarded outwardly. And when you, like it says, when you fast, you should wash your face, you know, put on a smile, go out and just act as normal, so that people aren't thinking like, what is it, like why do you know what I mean, like why do you have a glum face? And in doing so like you're giving that fast to God rather than giving it to people so that people can know, because this is something that you're doing between you and God. So I feel like every single time I do come out of it, I'm like, oh, actually, thank you for revealing that to me, God. Oh, thank you. Oh, you want me to make a prayer room? Oh, okay, God. Okay, fine. So I feel like my faith feels genuinely strengthened a lot more.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and I feel like after I fasted, I can pray for anything. Like, do you want a boat? We'll pray.
Pray about that.
I'll get you a boat, okay? I'm joking, not me, because I have no power. I just meant like.
God.
Just gotta make sure. I don't want people coming at me and be like, whoa, okay, you think you're God? Because that's not it. But yeah, I think with fasting, strengthens my faith. God reveals a lot more. It helps me practice self-control, and also helps me understand that things that are done in secret are also rewarded in secret, but also outwardly.
I love that. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope we've answered this question, guys. As always, if you've got anything to add to it, please put it in the comments. We want to know what you guys think about praying and fasting. Is it necessary in this day and age? And I'll see you in our next video.